All right, man. Let me get my little intro going. Let's get this.
It's gonna be blowing up.
All right, man. I'm back here. We had to do a second part of this right here, and we're gonna try to stay on task. We were talking about home ownership and the importance of having home ownership here um, in the U.S., especially amongst African Americans. I have my friend A5 here. I'm sorry. I have my friend Kelvin Davis here, and we're gonna let you take the mic first. Why do you think it's so important that we have home ownership here, especially as African Americans?
All right. Well, I honestly believe, with the current market being what it is, you hear a lot of buzzwords as concerning building generational wealth. Well, one of the easiest ways that I believe we can build generational wealth in the African American community is with home ownership. Home ownership, life insurance, creating a business, things of that nature will help to generate and maintain generational wealth within the African American community. Now, home ownership is one of the pillars, and it's easy, in my opinion, to do. And I know that some people think it's hard, but as you mentioned last night, if the credit is together and you have a certain mindset that actually desires to be in your own home, then there are ways, many ways, programs, organizations that are even set up to help you to go from renter to homeowner. And I believe that because home ownership is very doable in this day and age, that everyone within the African American community should seek home ownership.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you think that African Americans should have prior to, or things that will help them actually go out and purchase a home?
Right.
What's some of the
Absolutely.
main things they're going to need?
You're going to need gainful employment, either job or if you were, now I'm going to say blessed enough to have a lump sum of money, but most often that lump sum of money comes as a result of a life insurance policy that you received after someone you love passed on, they left you money, or some accident where you will receive money through claim or some lawsuit. So I'm saying blessed, but normally when we get that lump sum of money, it's through some tragic event. But
Is that
if it's not,
let me
go ahead.
stop you right there. Is that the norm when it comes down to the African American community? That they're gonna have a you know lump sum. I know because I'm starting to see a lot of like even when people die, they do GoFundmes and stuff to I'm seeing a lot of that happen doing GoFundmes. They even just bury loved ones and stuff like that. So if you don't have that, I mean, I just is that a norm that they would have a lump sum? So if you let's just say, for instance, we're looking at what percentage of African Americans you think are going to have that amount of money?
Very few, a very small amount. Savings amongst the African American community is way down. Americans in general, savings and retirement funds are very low. It's in the African American community, it's much lower than a lot of the other minority communities, as far as that's concerned. So it's unusual. And we can talk about the life insurance aspect of it, but as concerning homeownership, if you're able to get into a house and you're able to maintain the house, you're building up equity in that house, and by that, that's the difference between what you owe and what the house is worth. If you purchase $100,000 house and you pay it down to $50,000 over several years, and the house, even if the house doesn't grow in value, if it's only worth that $100,000 still, you've actually built up $50,000 worth of equity in your home that you could potentially refinance and take out and use for some other purpose. So homeownership allows for building equity. It allows for asset growth. You know, most often when we think of assets, we think of things that generate income. So I'm not saying that the home that you live in is necessarily or should be looked at as an asset, but it's definitely should be looked at as a way to build generational wealth.
I wish you could see
But
this right here. I got something, um, and we got to figure out a way that you can see what I'm streaming here, and you can look at. I mean, you actually can if you had a phone and you start. You was looking at what is it, YouTube Live, and you hit the Alpha Builder channel. But I have this.
okay,
I'm reading this right. I'm gonna read it to you. It says the median black household wealth was forecast to hit zero by 2053. In 2017, it's in a 2017 report by Prosperity Now, an Institute for Policy Studies, which is saying that, I mean, it's technically saying that we're going to have a net in the African American community, we're going to have a net worth of zero, like nothing. And then but I'm still trying to piece this together and say, okay, with that being said, well, we don't know if that's going to be true because this is a forecast. But with that being said, that doesn't look really good on the African American side. It's showing that we don't have. I mean, we don't have anything to be able to put as a down payment. I mean, I'm not saying all, but there's it just don't look. It doesn't look bright for the future of African Americans when it comes down to home ownership. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, definitely, it appears as though, especially according to that forecast, we're spending more and saving less.
Why you think that's the case? We're spending more. Why are we spending so much? I mean, I see that, man, like Air Jordans, and I'm just like, and maybe I shouldn't use terms, almost like saying that, that's all we do is spend our money on Air Jordans and things like that. But I do see that when I go out, that we do spend a lot of money on, things like how we look, cars and things like that. I mean, but if you dig down into our resources in our banks, in most cases, we just don't have the savings. We don't have the money built up. So, how are we going to get houses, man, if we just don't have a down payment? Something as simple as a down payment.
Well, and of course, there are programs that provide for down payment assistance, but it's better to have your own savings, of course. And a lot of things have to go into purchasing a home. It's not just about having the money, but there's a mindset you have to maintain. You're talking about a 30-year commitment. So just because you're able to save some money over the course of the year, if you don't maintain that savings mindset or that habit, once that year is up, if you put that money down on your house, now you're in a house. If you go to spending, willy nilly without any real regard towards putting money back, then you could potentially lose that house.
So do you think that people who can't save should be out here buying houses, or people who have to go through some kind of agency to help them learn how to save? Should those people be out here purchasing houses?
Well, I think that we need to focus on getting more African Americans in their own homes. If you look at the way things are, you have institutional investors who are going out and they're buying hundreds of houses at a time, probably thousands of houses at a time. And they're not buying these houses because they're looking to sell them. Most are buying houses, especially in our neighborhood, in our communities, because they want to rent them. If you look at the rent, the way that rent is rising, the way that it is, it's, in my opinion, better to own than to rent. I think that not only owning a house to help build generational wealth, that's just a side thing. We need some place to live. But beyond that, home ownership adds to the beautification of our communities. People are more apt to take care of their own things better than something that they're merely renting or leasing. So I believe that that will also go towards making our areas better, having people to have more of I guess, skin in the game to where, okay, you're not throwing as much trash on the street. You're not allowing your houses become dilapidated, which is a lot of the case in our communities. So beyond the savings situation, there are a lot of things that go into home ownership, yes, but beyond that, home ownership is definitely something that we need to see the importance of and pay more attention to.
Check this out. There's another article I'm looking at right here. It says more than half, which is mean greater than 50%, more than half of Generation Z says, and I think this is we're Generation X, all right?
Right.
And the baby boomers was right before us. So we Generation X. So then Generation Z, I think, is right after us. But it says more than half of Generation Z says renting is a better option than buying a house, than buying a home. And let me just it says more.
Those are 20-year-olds, right? 20-year-olds?
Yeah, they I think, well, we could look at that. Let me see, the age limit of Generation Z's is gonna be, let me see, generation let me see, age range. It's gonna be, those are the guys that are gonna be, it says 11 to 26.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah, then I'm sorry, I had that wrong. So millennials is from 27 to 42.
Okay. And
And
they're the
then,
ones that pay for rent.
yeah, no, those are the guys who really want to get housed. These are probably the guys, our generation, and just the millennials and the Generation X's are the ones that we're probably talking to right now. But the younger generation, those Generation Z's, which is younger than that, from 11 to 26. So let's just say somebody that's 26 years old is saying that, shoot, it's going to be better for us to rent instead of, and it's almost like that. I understand what you're saying, but it's almost like we're trying to condition this new generation to accept just being in an apartment or a box or something like that. Do you think? Let me just see. Let me see. Broken down by generation, Generation Z renters led the way with 51% saying renting is the best choice. For the survey, RealPage asked 25 questions to 2,000 multifamily renters ages 55 and below across the country whose income ranged from 20,000 to 200,000. Nearly two-thirds of renters said they are satisfied with their current rental situation as it gives them greater freedom to move and more financial flexibility. Close to the three-quarters said renting allows them to live in neighborhoods they could not otherwise live in. So that kind of
So you
makes
have
a
a
little
lot of
sense.
people who want to, especially in the Birmingham area, you have a lot of people who want to be in areas where the school systems are better than they could probably afford a home in. So I understand that situation, and that's not just African Americans, but that's a vast majority of the population who want to live in areas, especially those young people, 20-year-olds. They're looking to be in areas where the school systems are better. They don't have, as much in savings as older people have, to be able to put down payments on a house. They're living life. They're just getting out of the house. They're enjoying themselves. They don't, and there are some outliers who are mindful of, okay, well, mom and dad had a house. They brought me up understanding the importance of having my own house and not renting. There are some kids who were brought up like that, but there's some who, especially in the African American community, have lived in rental houses or projects for 2 and 3 generations. They don't know anything else. They don't know how a lawnmower works. They don't know how to call a plumber or an electrician. All they know how to do is to get, I guess, a superintendent or the maintenance guy to come by and fix it. So a lot of that conditioning, as you say, is just a part of the way things are, unfortunately.
How do you
But
weight
yeah,
these? How do you? I mean, you said there are programs. Is there any other way to wake these guys up? You know, to just get them to see the importance of just ownership in general, and just really just I would think just kind of getting your finances right, getting your credit right, and pretty much becoming financially savvy to where you can go out and do things like this. You know, especially at an early age. You know, what do you think we should be doing and getting our people to understand?
It starts in the home. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do better because they weren't taught better. Uh, my mother had, sloppy financial ways. So I grew up, with the mindset, I spend money. I actually remember her saying this. We spend money that we don't even have, you know. And she almost said it kind of like she was proud of that. I hope she was sad and I just misunderstood it, being a child. But that's something that she said out of her mouth, hey, we spend money that we don't have. So with that type of upbringing, it's ingrained in the child, and now all of a sudden you're living life, freewheeling and not really conscious of the fact that, hey, tomorrow is going to come and I'm going to have to get my finances in order. Unfortunately, most of us have to find some sort of program that is going to help dispel a lot of those false thoughts that we had, that faulty thinking that we grew up with, because it was just something that was placed in us. Mama didn't mean to, jack us up. She was just speaking from her own experience. But unfortunately, a lot of us fell into the trap of thinking that same way. So a lot of the times, if it's not being taught in the home where it should be taught, it's definitely not being taught in the schools, which would be a great place for financial education to occur. We have to get it through programs that are being offered by banks, through community service organizations and other nonprofit groups.
So you don't think that? So they're not teaching this at school. The high schools and stuff like that. They're not teaching financial literacy. You know, basically, just anything to do with just trying to get yourself together when it comes down to credit and things like that. You don't. Are they teaching that in school now? Have you
They're
heard
not
it?
teaching school. A lot of programs are taken away, and I'm not as close as I'm sure you are, but as concerning band, art classes, things of that nature, things that aren't necessarily pertinent to graduating tests. There are tests that the students have to take to graduate from school, and a lot of schools are just teaching the information that's needed or necessary to
Yeah.
get them to pass that test. And financial literacy, unfortunately, isn't one of those subjects.
Okay. What are some of
All
the? What are some? I got this little thing here I'm looking at. And you did hit up on it says have your down payment. Things like having your credit. I mean, what do you do to get your credit right?
it's easy and it's hard. It's the easiest hard thing that you can do. First thing you need to do is to understand where you are credit wise. Kind of like being at the mall, and you're trying to find a particular store. You find that directory and it has the red X that says you are here. And you find the store you want to go to. Now I can navigate to the store I want to go to because I know where I am. A lot of people don't have the nerve to find out where they are. But the government says that once every year, you're entitled to a free credit report, and you can pull it at annualcreditreport.com for free. It gives you all three: TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. You pull your credit report, understand where you are. Now you understand if there are any outstanding balances, or if there are any charge-offs, if there are any collections. You understand where you are. Now we can face the problem. If you don't know what the problem is, it's impossible to face it. Once you understand where you are, now we can put together a strategy on what we need to do to get you where you want to be. Most lenders are FHA backed. Most loans are FHA backed. And FHA allows for down payments as little as 3%, but they also allow credit scores as low as, I want to say, 580. I recommend that everyone be at least at 640 before they go to look for a house, because you don't want the worst interest rate possible. You want the best interest rate that you can possibly get, and you want to have more of a chance at being successful. So if you can get your score up to 620, 640, you're in the best position to qualify for a home loan.
What about debt, man? I mean, would you advise them to make sure they get some of the debt and things like that paid off?
Oh, absolutely, because your mortgage person is going to sit down with you and talk to you and let you know that your debt to income ratio makes a very big difference as concerning how much house you can afford. In this market, $100,000 house won't get you very much house unless you're looking at a fixer upper, something that you really need some TLC. But if you're looking at a $200,000 house, your debt to income ratio is really going to play into effect. And the lender is going to want to make sure that he's not putting you in a failing position to where you're having to spend 75% of your paycheck to live in a house. That's unreasonable. And that's something that they definitely wouldn't assume that you would maintain for 30 years. So they're going to make sure, and I'm not a mortgage person, you can talk to a mortgage person, but they're going to make sure that your debt to income ratio is such that you're able to afford this house in the long run.
Okay. Should the person also have? I was looking at right here. It says you probably gonna need to have an emergency fund too. So a lot of people, they operating out here. They don't have emergency funds, and they just, you know, really just trying to get their finances in order. It's just, it's tough on a lot of people. So should you kind of count on having things like that in place as well? Just some savings and stuff that you really don't want to touch unless you have,
Oh,
you know what I
absolutely.
mean?
I mean, it's always better. Like the banker told me, it's you can never have too much money in the bank. You can have too little money in the bank. That's when you get your NSFs and charges. But you can never have too much money in the bank. I don't recommend waiting until you're perfect in your finances. It would be great if you were perfect, but I'm finding that a lot of people, or I believe that a lot of people are waiting until they become perfect and never actually get into owning a home. So if you're not perfect, go and talk with the mortgage person. He'll let you know what you need to do, what you need to know. And I wouldn't, I mean, even if you're 6 months, a year, 2 years out from actually being able to get into a house, it's still better to get started. It's better to get started on a long journey than to sit around and continue to complain that it's a long journey. You have to get this started. There's a saying that goes, how does it go? The beginning of 1,000-mile journey begins with the first step. You have to take that first step. And if the first step is getting your credit together, if the first step is putting some money in a tin can, get into the practice of saving. If it's as little as $20 a month, get into that habit of doing it. And if you get into the habit of doing it, you'll find that your money is growing. You'll find that you'll never even miss that $20 a month. And you may find that you're able to put even more into that can. Maybe $40 a month, maybe $100 a month
That's right.
over the course of that year. And now all of a sudden, once you get into that habit, you'll begin to have emergency funds and things of that nature.
Now, should most people wait till they get married before they go buy a house, or should that be something you just kind of, if you can do it on your own, go out and do it, and maybe bring your wife in with you, or the wives can bring their husband in with them? What would be your thoughts on that?
It depends really, because if a person is able to get into a home, and most people do start homes. They don't buy the home that they're looking to be in at the end of their life. So they'll buy a starter home. Maybe if it's just a single person, a 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and make one of the bedrooms an office, something like that. I would recommend, if you're able to get into a house, then get into a house. If you're looking to be married within the next year or two, that should be something that you all are discussing. Hey, I'm in an apartment now. I want to get into a house. We're getting married in a year or two. We can either pick it out together, or I can go on and get a house, and maybe we can get something else together later on. those are discussions that you want to discuss with your potential spouse. But I don't think that it's a wise idea to wait until you're married. People are getting married later on in life. Relationships are falling apart where you thought that you were going to marry that person, and now it's 10 years later, and they haven't popped the question, and you waited 10 years to get into your house when you could have been in the house building up equity. And so I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to wait until you're married. But if you're, like I said, a year, 2 years out from definitely being married, it's something that should be discussed with that fiance.
Hey man, this has been pretty good, man. Like I said, I tried to. I think it's great that I had some notes out in front of me so we can stay on task, man. Did you have anything else you want to add before we kind of wrap this thing up, man? I just want to kind of get an idea. I've always I got pros and cons on as far as going out buying the house because I really think that you really need to be financially literate before you even think about stuff like that. And I think that comes with years of discipline and self-control, not getting yourself in debt and having a good understanding of money and how it works. So, that's just kind of my take on it. And I would love to see a lot of people, especially in our communities, being able to go out here and purchase houses. But being being a realist, we have got to do better on our education when it comes down to understanding the financial side of things. Is there anything else you want to add to this right here, this discussion?
No, we tapped on every part.
All right, man, I'm gonna end this thing with my little extra, and man, I appreciate Kevin having you on, man, and we're gonna do more of these right here. This is just a kind of trial run. I still got a lot of tweaking out to do because I see some lagging when I talk on my side, but we're gonna try to set up something where we kind of inform people on what's going on in the community and what we could do better. And once again, I appreciate you again, Kevin Davis, and man, you have a good day.
Yeah.